These are very important things, because the next one leads us to the Buffett lesson. And because your whole book, you guys, if this is your first time listening to This is Financial Advice or watching This is Financial Advice, Matthew and I do this every week. But he's also written a book, Warren Buffett in a Web3 World. And so that's why every week we're kind of going through, a little Warren Buffett lesson. How can we apply something that he's done? Because arguably he's one of the best traders in the history of investing, but he doesn't like crypto. But that's okay, because that's why we're here. Because Matthew's going to relate Warren's message to a Web3 world.
And so in the 1970s or the early 1980s, he codified, basically what his recipe was for picking stocks. And that's like the craziest thing from a perspective of an investor in the Web3 space. There's over 20,000 tokens that you could potentially invest in. A lot of them are derivatives, or a lot of them are, kind of way down the hole of altcoin, right? They may even given that term altcoin. And the question becomes like, how do you start? What do you look at? How do you even come to terms with this? And his advice is applicable to both the crypto market as well as the NFT market. And the first rule of that recipe is the investment that you make should be one that you understand. And to Keith's point earlier, gold and silver are incredibly easy to understand. The reason why Buffett loves Coca-Cola is because it's super easy to understand, and he drinks a ton of it. The reason why he doesn't invest in crypto is because he doesn't understand it, right? And so when we think about things like See's Candy, he invested in, it's just a candy shop, right? But it still made a boatload of money because he realized that people really, really love this type of candy. Right. So when we think about some of the projects we look at and understanding some of the technology, like some of this technology is so far out there. You got the liquidity pools, and you got yield farming, and you got risk-adjusted bonding curves, and like all this stuff that like could net you a whole bunch of money. But at the end of the day, if you have a hard time explaining it to your parent who might be 65 or older, or even your child who's maybe 10 or younger, it's going to be a hard sell for me to advise you that this is something that we should go invest in. So he kind of calls it his circle of competence, is the ability to understand what you're investing in. The second piece of this is like long-term favorable prospects. And that is probably one of the hardest parts about this, because so many of these tokens are new and we're not really sure what those long-term favorable prospects are. But when you look at something like the other side, for example, and you think of the roadmap of what they've built and the milestones that they're achieving, you can't help but think in 4 or 5 years, the growth and trajectory of this entire platform is going to be pretty magnanimous. And so that's one of the reasons that other side is something that I'm particularly invested in. Jay, I know you've got a deed as well, and a Coda gang.
With weapons.
With weapons.
And
right?
we were introduced. There's a Coda gang weapon group on Twitter, and we're in it now.